Fast SUVs are silly things that we shouldn't enjoy, but the world doesn't make sense, and a wickedly quick, cute ute can make for a ripping good time. One of those that captures your eyes and your ears is the Jaguar F-Pace SVR. And this updated version is better than ever, even if it's been slightly tamed at the same time. First things first, let's take a look at the style of this thing. There's slightly more aggression in the face with big vents everywhere. Jaguar swapped out the lights for a full LED setup. You've got available 22-inch wheels at the corners, and lurking behind them sit massive 15.5-inch rotors, both front and rear. And the front calipers clamp down with a 6-piston setup. There's also better aero as it relates to this restyled bodywork. Jaguar claims lift has been decreased by 35%. The drag coefficient is dipped a little, and then you get a few extra tweaks to help it stand apart from lesser F-Pace models, like the fixed rear spoiler, hood vents, rear exhaust outlets, and surrounding finish. In the cabin, Jag has stepped up its game greatly compared to prior versions. The PV Pro infotainment system looks great on this 11.4-inch touchscreen that looks sharp and responds well. You have wireless charging underneath it as well. There's a nicely sized steering wheel, and beyond that sits the crisp and clear 12.3-inch adjustable digital gauge cluster. Backseat room is tight, but totally usable. This front seat is where I would sit were I up there. And I'm here behind myself, 6'3", 6'3". And there's plenty of room in the cargo space as well, though if you do put your groceries back there and then take the curvy road home, your groceries are going flying. The real meat here, though, is the massive engine plonked under the hood. It's a 5-liter V8 aided by a supercharger to produce 550 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. It's backed up by an 8-speed gearbox, an active all-wheel drive system with torque vectoring by way of braking, and it all adds up to a luxury SUV that can rip off 0 to 60 mile-per-hour runs of 3.8 seconds. And it'll rip all the way up to its top speed of 178 miles per hour. Now, we're not testing that bit today, but let's hop in and see how it drives. So as you might expect, the driving experience of this thing is pretty darn fun. It's a torquey, fun, powerful engine that also sounds great. Now, I mentioned in the beginning that this vehicle is a little tamer, and it's not because of the engine. It's just that Jaguar softened up the insanity of the exhaust note, where it used to just pop and bark and just be insane off throttle. A lot of that is toned back down, but the actual exhaust note, if I grab a gear here, it's still ridiculous in really fun ways. And then on top of that, those massive brakes just haul this thing down from speed. The gearbox is nice and responsive on its own, but you can grab paddles and hear more noise. It almost sounds like a Stellantis product. This could be a version of like a Trackhawk Jeep, just way nicer inside and different styling on the outside. Back to the inside of this, the overall driving experience, like I said, is nice. These seats look really good, but one thing to note as a taller person, because this isn't an adjustable headrest, where the bottom part of this headrest portion hits me in the back is like right in between my shoulder blade. It's uncomfortable at first, but as I sit here, it starts to go away. But that could be me like unconsciously slouching a little bit below it. So that is something to note if you're a taller. Everything else is pretty great. The steering wheel feels nice in my hands. I like that I can grab different drive modes, and if I want the drive mode button to go away, you can push it down and it disappears. Pop it back up, and then I put this in dynamic, but there's normal, or comfort as they call it. There's an eco mode, which is kind of funny, and then there's like a snow, rain, slippery weather mode. I immediately put it into dynamic, but you can go into the menus and adjust that further if you want. And then if you want to just keep it in comfort, but you want the exhaust, there's a button just for the exhaust noise as well, which is smart. I appreciate that feature. From there, the sound system is great. All of it adds up to an enjoyable driving experience. The suspension is well damped for the comfort side of it. It's not a punishing vehicle. It drives like a Jaguar, a modern Jag should drive. And that is also something I can really appreciate. They didn't want to just crush you and punish you with overly stiff springs or shocks, a ridiculously over-the-top steering feel, and all of that. That doesn't have that. This just drives like you want a Jag to drive, just a Jag when it has 550 horsepower, which is a great place to be. An SUV like this doesn't come cheaply. The base price of this one is $87,750. This one, as tested, is just under $100,000 with an as tested price of $97,379. This Jaguar is something quite special, as the brand has committed to a fully electric lineup in the not too distant future. So, this F-Pace SVR, finished in its deep desire red paint with its raucous exhaust note, is almost a so long and thanks for all the fuel moment in time, so soak it in.